Hi and welcome back to the channel. Now today I'd like to talk to you about something that I feel is absolutely fundamental and a way of orientating yourself in your life and in the world that I believe will make a significant difference to your levels of happiness and well-being. Now let me just ask you a question. Do you feel that your life is just a load of stuff? That it's like Winston Churchill said, life is just one damn thing after another. And for many of us, we go through life and we've got like a tick list. Our days are just full of stuff, of chores, of things that we've got to get through. And these things just pile up and pile up. So we have lists of things that we have to accomplish. And we're ticking these things off. And it seems like if you're like anything like me and you've lived that kind of way, it's like this list just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you go along. And the thing is that the things that I hadn't done seem to start outweighing the things that I was doing. So it's almost like I'm trying to just get through my life. And even this way of orientating ourselves that, you know, we've got these goals and we've got to get to these goals. It's like the getting of the goal is constantly in our minds. And it's as if we can't really be present in our lives as, you know, and enjoy our lives. So there's this sense that we're taught, we're educated out of actually enjoying our lives. And this thing of just having one thing after another, that you're trying to get through your life. And sometimes I even talk to people and it's as if they're trying to, you know, race to the end of their life so they can kind of reassure themselves that it all turned out okay, but then there's no life left. And in our culture, this is the way we're orientated. There's just, we've got to get through things, we've got to do things, and we've got to get through, we've got to achieve, we've got to keep this constant way of orientating ourselves. And I'm going to just basically, it's a bit like this. If we put this into sort of visual terms, you could say like, you're kind of here, and then there's these things that you've got to get through, and they keep piling up. More and more and more, and somehow you've got to try and get through these things. So you're trying to get through each one of these things, constantly trying to get through. And like I said, it's as if there's some point somewhere in the future where you're going to get, and everything's going to be just fine. It's all going to be great. Yeah. And what's interesting, if the more you talk to people, the more you realize that they never actually make it to this point. And it, you know, I've had the privilege of working with people and talking to a lot of people that have reached retirement. And it's like, oh, wow, you know, suddenly my life's just been this one load of stuff after another. And now I didn't actually get to where I wanted to go. And so, you know, you could either look at it this way, that, you know, we're left crushed at the bottom really, and we sort of send this kind of weird avatar of ourselves through life. And then we get to this point and then we realize, oh, actually I got left behind down here. You know, I wasn't present in my own life, because what was present was just all this stuff. But I'm going to suggest that there's a much more beautiful way to orientate yourself within life, within your life, so that you can begin the process of being fully present in your life and enjoying your life. So this is what we can call probably a task-based life. So this is a life that's full of tasks that need to be done. And then you do one task, and then you move on to the next task, and then you move on to the next task, and then the next one, and then the next one. And like I said, you get left down here, but actually in some ways you just get crushed and you disappear under the burden of the tasks. Now in my tarot deck, the wonderful illustration of this is the Ten of Wands, and I'll put that up on screen. That in a sense, we live our lives like life is a burden. It's just all of this stuff just keeps coming at us. And we're even encouraged to think about things this way. And I can remember when I was young, and my parents had television. I don't actually have a television. I haven't had one since 1999. So I just got rid of the whole thing out of my life and was so much better for it. But the thing is that I remember watching these adverts on television about retirement and this idea that you planned your retirement when you were like sort of in your 20s. Now, some people might look and say, well, actually that's sensible, isn't it? Isn't that a sensible thing to do? But it's an educating us and indoctrinating us to just get through our lives. So we're already thinking about the end of our lives, that part at the end. And what's ironic, I think that so many people have noticed that people actually get to retirement and then they die. So they don't actually, all of this trying to get to the retirement and having this amazing place that you're going to end up is that they kind of almost get to it and then they drop dead. I think Tony Robbins said, by the time you retire, you're either dead or dead broke. So on top of that, after just a life of tasks, the reward is that you might just get to sit in your garden for a few months and then you drop dead. Now that doesn't seem like a very upbeat way of understanding our lives. Now there's a much more holistic and beautiful way to understand our lives, and I'll give you two ways to really think about this and ponder it and then put it into action within your life. Now, just as an aside, I mean, I didn't know any better when I was young, so I used to live like this, and I got myself to the point where it seemed absolutely, my life just seemed like whole life seemed like a burden. And it was so unenjoyable. I just realized I'm not enjoying my life. Well, what's going on here? And I'll come into this in some other videos. And really it's the foundation of everything that I'm talking about, and everything really that my art and all of those things are communicating, which is that your life is miraculous. It's a gift. And, a way that we bring that gift to life is through a vision, the power and wonder of a beautiful vision for our lives. And your vision can be whatever you want it to be, but there's certain things that help us to activate and bring a vision to life for ourselves. And this is the way I'm just going to talk to you now and explain this, is something that I've worked with myself, and it's made an incredible difference to my life. In fact, it's just totally transformed my entire life and how I understand life, and even the amount, and it's completely and utterly transformed my relationship to time. Because this is all, like, we're always racing against time in this way of looking at things. So the other way that I feel is a much more beautiful, like I said, and holistic way to understand and the context in which to live your life is through evolution. So an evolutionary context for your life. So in an evolutionary way of understanding it, instead of being down here and crushed by all of the tasks, the weight of all the tasks, the burden of life and the racing against time, you're actually orientated in your life. So you're here. Okay. And then what happens is the things that you do, the things that you want to create, let's use the word create instead of achieve, create, come out of this central core. So you could say your life is this vision. You are your life. And things emanate from this central. So this is really how nature works. If you look at how a human grows, it emerges. We're not a series of parts that's just put together. Yet we actually emerge out of energy. We burst out of light energy. And when the egg is fertilized, it divides and it evolves. And the whole of the universe is evolving. The whole of the psyche is evolving. It's the way everything explores. It's the way life explores itself, the way the universe explores itself. It's an evolutionary process. And once we start to look at it this way, it's a bit like Ken Wilber, the philosopher Ken Wilber, he called it holons. So as you create things through your vision, which we'll talk about in other, but you don't even need to think about that for now. You just need to understand this way, this orientation to your life. So as you create things, they include and transcend. So that means that they include this central core, but they also go one step beyond. So they transcend it. But the core is woven into the thing that's created. It's not stacked on top of it. It's part of it. It's brought to life from within. So your life is an emanation. It emanates out, and you are orientated in your life. You're not stuck somewhere at the bottom with this kind of weird ghost-like avatar sort of going through life until you get to the end and then you realize you got left behind. So here again, other things come in. So you end up with what should be, although it isn't in my drawing, kind of like a beautiful flower of life. So it's this thing that is evolving, and each new thing that's created, not added onto, it's created as part of and from the central core. So it's a being way of living, not a doing way of living. So each one of these is an evolutionary step, or it's an evolutionary, part of an evolutionary process. And another way of looking at this is like, your life is like a garden. So if you can imagine, like you've got a, you know, like you've got a garden. Let's imagine that's a garden. And this way of doing it is kind of just putting a path through your garden. So you're trying to you put a path through your garden so you get from one end of your garden to the other, and then you're out the other side. But this one, the other way, the evolutionary way, is that you're in the garden, you're tending to the garden. So you're planting things that you're creating things that create a harmony. So it's a harmonizing process as well. So you're tending to the garden. And so these different facets of your life, like your body, your health, your well-being, your work, your creativity, your family, your food, all of these things are part of the garden and you tend to them. So this is a process of caring for and growing and evolving. And then there's times when you need to take things out, or you place things next to each other that complement each other. So this is actually creating a beautiful garden rather than just race something that it doesn't mean you can't create a path that goes through the garden, and then sometimes in our life there are things that we just have to get done. But it's kind of seeing that the greater picture of your life is an evolutionary way of looking at things rather than a task-based way of looking at things. So you are in your life and of your life, rather than your life is just something that all this stuff is just piled on top of. So when you're in time rather than through time, it means that, like I said, your life and the things that you create emanate, they emerge. So they are emergent phenomena, emergent qualities of who you are and what you stand for and what's most important to you. The other thing is this is something that's generated from your deepest core. These things are generally generated from outside. So these are all outside things pushing in. So you're pushed and pulled by the external world. Here, like the garden, you're responding. So you have the ability, you have responsibility, which is the ability to respond. So you have a responsive nature to life, a responsive relationship to life. This is a reactive relationship to life. So I hope this helps, and just take this on board, play with it as a concept, see how you do, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.